Good evening to all. So today I am going to explain the next theory. So first theory is occupancy theory. Here this is the second one, induced fit theory. Okay, induced fit theory. Induced fit theory. Okay, so this proposed by Coastland. Okay, Coastland. First, initially, he thought that this is applicable for only enzymes. Okay, enzymes. Enzymes are nothing but drug receptors only. Okay, here initially, this theory was applicable. This theory they applicable. This Coastland applicable for drug receptors which are nothing but enzymes. Okay, was applicable to enzymes. Applicable to enzymes which are drug targets. Drug targets. Drug targets. Okay. So here later this theory is applicable to all the drug targets, all the types of drug targets. Okay. So later on this is applicable to all the drug targets. All the drug targets. Okay. So according to this theory, enzyme need not necessarily exist in proper conformation. So in this theory, enzyme need not necessarily exist in proper conformation. Okay, in proper conformation. Here, when drug molecule binds to that receptor, which is nothing but enzyme, so what will be happen? Immediately, the conformational changes of enzymes will occur, and thereby it shows biological activity. Okay, biological activity. So what will be happen here? The drug molecule approaches enzyme. Okay, approaches to enzyme. Conformational changes occur in enzyme. Conformational changes occur in enzyme, which leads to biological response. So, if it undergoes conformational changes, especially this enzyme, what will happen? It leads to biological activity. Okay, it leads to biological activity, which leads biological activity. Which leads biological activity. Okay, biological activity. Okay. So this is the. So how it produces conformational change? If it occurs, no. So which leads the biological activity. Okay. Enzyme is an elastic state actually nature, and it could retain its original state after drug releasing. Okay, whenever the drug bind to that enzyme, so conformational changes occur, thereby it produces biological activity. So after biological activity, if drug releases, no, so enzyme retains its conformation. Okay. So first write down this. Okay. Next one. Next point. Next point is enzyme was suggested as it is an elastic nature. It is an elastic nature. Okay. The enzyme was suggested to be was suggested to be an elastic in nature, elastic in nature, and it could retain to its original state or conformation. Original conformation, original conformation after the drug was released. After the drug was released. Okay? Means after action of drug, okay, it will releases whenever the drug releases from the receptor retains its original conformation. Okay? Original conformation. Here, conformational changes not only takes place in enzyme, conformational changes occurs in drug also. Okay? Drug also. What happened here? Not only the conformational changes not only takes place in enzyme but also takes place in drug molecule. Okay, both. So conformational changes takes place in both drug molecule and as well as receptors. Okay, receptors. Okay, receptors are nothing but enzymes. Whatever the drug target, so drug target and as well as drug will undergo the conformational changes. Okay, the conformational changes not only takes place not only in the enzyme but also takes place in in drug molecule. Okay, according to this theory, agonist would produce conformational changes which leads to the biological response. And what is antagonist? So it antagonist binds the enzyme without any conformational changes. Okay, agonist only will undergo conformational changes. Okay, so according to this theory, what is agonist? Agonist agonist undergoes means here agonist would induce the conformational changes and produces biological activity. Okay. In antagonist, so there is no conformational changes. So there is no biological response. Okay. According to this theory, agonist would induce agonist would induce conformational change, induce conformational changes, conformational changes and produces biological activity. Produces biological activity. Okay? Biological. Okay? What is agonist? It induces conformational changes, thereby it produces biological activities called as agonist. Okay. Let's see what is the antagonist. Antagonist is a drug. Here agonist also drug which binds to the receptor or enzyme. Okay, and so thereby it produces conformational change. Thereby it shows the biological activity which is called as agonist. Agonist drug. Here antagonist which binds with the enzyme without any conformational change. Okay, and it doesn't produce any biological activity. Okay. An antagonist, an antagonist which binds with an enzyme, binds with an enzyme without any biological, without any conformational change, without any conformational change, conformational change, without any conformational change. So means that that doesn't produce biological activity. Biological activity. Okay. Next, partial agonist would cause partial conformational changes and partial biological response. Okay. A partial agonist, a partial agonist would cause partial conformational changes, conformational changes and produce changes and produce conformational biology and produced partial biological response. Partial response, not the fully response. Okay, if it is fully means it is called as agonist. Okay, it is not produces full biological response. It produces partial biological response. Thereby, it is called as partial agonist. Partial response. Okay, partial response. So an agonist undergo conformational changes and induce a conformational changes in the enzyme. Okay. Uh, so resulted a strain. Due to this strain, an agonist binds less tightly and complex dissociates more easily. So next point is here. If agonist binds, an agonist undergo undergo conformational changes, conformational changes, okay, and The conformational change, change in the enzyme conformational change in the enzyme. So this resulted a strain. So due to this strain, an agonist binds less tightly. Due to this strain, an agonist binds less tightly and complex dissociates. What is complex dissociates more easily. If this drug receptor complex, it doesn't change any conformational changes, means what? The drug receptor complex should be more stable. Okay? More stable. If this drug receptor complex doesn't doesn't cause any conformational changes, conformational changes means if it is not, doesn't show any conformational changes, so then what is the conclusion? Drug receptor complex is more stable. Okay, drug receptor complex is more stable. Is more stable. Okay. Okay. So this is about the induced fit here. Okay. Let's see third one, macromolecular perturbation theory. Third one, macromolecular perturbation theory. Perturbation is nothing but change, disturbance. Okay, perturbation is nothing but change or disturbance. Okay, first, this theory was proposed by Bellian, and he suggested that interaction of drug with the receptors, okay, two types of general macromolecular perturbations occur. Okay, so Bellian, and he suggested that there are the interaction of drug with receptor, two types of macromolecular perturbations, two types of general macromolecular perturbations takes place. Perturbations takes place. Here, two types of macromolecular perturbations takes place. Okay, according to this theory. Here, one is there specific macromolecular specific macromolecular perturbations, and second one non-specific macromolecular perturbations. Okay. Here, specific macromolecular perturbations means any drug which interact with the receptor and produce specific type of macromolecular perturbations. It is called as agonist. Okay. So here, according to this, any drug any drug which interacts any drug which interacts with receptor receptor and and produces specific type of specific type of macromolecular specific type of macromolecular perturbations which leads to biological activity is called BA is nothing but biological activity. Okay, is called agonist. Agonist. It is called as agonist. Here we are using the specific type of macromolecular perturbations. There we are using conformational changes. Okay, instead of conformational changes, here we are using specific type of macromolecular perturbations. That is only the difference. Okay. Any drug which interacts with the receptor, say there and here also same, but in the sense of specific type of macromolecular perturbation is called as agonist according to this theory. Okay. Next, next one. Any drug which interacts with the receptor and produces non-specific or improper type of macromolecular perturbations are called as antagonists. Okay. Here, any drug which which interacts with the with the receptor receptor and produces non-specific non-specific or improper improper type macromolecular perturbation macromolecular perturbation perturbation which doesn't produce which doesn't produce biological activity. Biological activity is called as antagonist. Is called antagonist. Simple amma which will give the conformational changes or specific type of macromolecular perturbation is called agonist. Here antagonist which doesn't produce non-specific or improper type of macromolecular perturbation is called as antagonist. Okay, and let's see the partial agonist. Okay, here which drug the drug which interacts with the receptor and produces both types of perturbations means specific as well as non-specific. Okay, non-specific which leads to partial biological activity is called as partial agonist. Okay, partial agonist. here. Macromolecular perturbations are two types: specific macromolecular perturbations and what about non-specific macromolecular perturbation? Okay, if it produces a drug which produces the specific macromolecular perturbations is called as agonist. Okay, what is the antagonist here? Any drug which interacts with the receptor and produces non-specific or improper type, non-specific or improper type macromolecular perturbation which doesn't produce any biological activity is called as antagonist. Means simply we have to stop that. We have to stop the biological activity. So for that we are using antagonist. Okay. For example, cimetidine. Okay, that is anti-ulcer drug which blocks the production of HCl. Okay, and here another type is there, that is nothing but partial agonist. This partial agonist, any drug which interacts with the receptor and produces both types of perturbations are called as both type of perturbations. Okay, which leads to partial biological activity is called as partial agonist. There are three types: agonist, antagonist, and partial agonist. Agonist produces biological response and antagonist doesn't produce any biological response, and partial agonist produces partial response, biological activity. Okay. So this is about the macromolecular perturbation theory. Okay, ma, I will continue tomorrow. Okay. Thank you.